everybody. Welcome to Big Balls Fantasy Football, the show by real fantasy football fans for real fantasy football fans. I am your host, 20-year fantasy veteran and fan of the now 2-0 Chicago Bears, Greg Reifsteck.
And I am your co-host, Jenilee and Borek, also a 10-year fantasy veteran and a huge diehard Chicago Bears fan. And together we are the beauty
And the beast
of fantasy football experts.
So you're probably wondering, hey, where are all the lights? Where's the big studio and everything? We thought we were getting a little bit too far away from being fans, and we were turning into those NFL Network commentators you hate and we hate just as much. So we decided to downgrade it a little bit, bring it back down to the grassroots, so we could make sure we still have our picks good for you.
That's right, because, you know, the picks are still going to be the same. You're still going to get all the big balls fantasy advice, but you're just going to see us not as pro, quote unquote.
Oh, we're still pros. We're still definitely pros. Yeah. We don't know if our former employees were pros, but we'll leave that to be decided. Anyway, enough editorial commentary. We are in week 3 of fantasy, and this is the week managers just panic their ass off because you have players that you drafted in the first or second round and they're not doing a damn thing, and you're wondering, why the hell aren't they scoring?
That's right, and a lot of you are already 0-2 in your leagues. You're stressing out. You thought you had this amazing draft, and where are your starters? Why are they not getting you points? And a lot of you are ready to drop them already, and it's only week 3, so we have some advice for you guys.
Yeah, we're going to go through 3 players that all definitely went in the first round, and we're going to, a few older people out there remember stop, drop, and roll, what you're supposed to do during when there was a fire. Well, we are going to do bench, trade, and drop. So, Jenilee, why don't you get us started with our first running back?
Okay, I'm going to start us off with Stevan Ridley. Now, he has had 25 rushes for only 86 yards so far in 2 games, 1 fumble and 0 touchdowns. No touchdowns. So, I don't know, what would you do first? What would you do with Ridley?
I actually have him, and I'm going to bench him and just wait for the, hopefully hope to God that they get it together. But right now, I don't think you should have anybody but Tom Brady for the Patriots in your lineup. Very
true. And the reason I would hold on to him, but bench him, maybe not have him in your starting lineup, is because they're going to get Gronk back. They're going to get Amendola back in a few weeks. So hopefully that Patriot passing game should start to click a little bit more, and then that'll open up the running game. So hopefully you'll be able to get him in your lineup. But I wouldn't give up on the Patriots offense just yet. It is way too early in the season to count them out. And they are 2-0, even though they haven't looked so amazing. So they're still finding ways to win games.
And it's Darth Vader, and he'll always prevail.
Always.
Always. So, I'm going to give us number 2. We have David Wilson of the Giants. Check out these stats, Jenilee. 2 fumbles in the first game. He loves having fumbleitis in the first game. No touchdowns. 14 for 36 rushing. He has 120 return yards. That's why you might be tempted to keep him in your lineup if you're in a yardage league, but I actually feel like I'm going to trade him because he has fumbleitis. They have a really suspect situation for running backs there on the Giants. They tend to get hurt. They brought back Jacobs, who got hurt, and they just keep bringing him back. I just think they beat on running backs. I'd put him out for trade bait because he still actually has some value right now. What would you do?
Yeah, I like the trade option because he does have value. I know they said they were going to make him run around the field with 2 footballs so that he wouldn't fumble. So maybe that will not be an issue down the line. But he still has a little bit of value right now. If there's absolutely no one you can get for him, then I would just say bench him, but hold on to him because the Giants seem to make a run at things later in the season as well. And so he might have his, stuff together by then.
Then we have our favorite person to beat on and our favorite backup to be excited about. Good old Arian Foster. A lot of people took him in the first round. A lot of people knew he was going to be injured. He hasn't been injured yet. He has just played pretty damn poorly so far. 7 for 37 on receptions, 37 for 136 rushing, 3.7 average rushing yards. That's horrible. Ben Tate, you want to read Ben Tate's stats there?
If I can read your terrible handwriting. Is it 18 rushes for, is that 148?
That's right.
148 yards, so that's an 8.2 average.
Just like doctors write horribly, just what the doctor ordered. 8.2 average compared to 3.7, and Arian's the starter. Unfortunately, I just have to say I'm going to bench him because you don't know what Ben Tate's going to do either. He might be balling and Arian, might not, and then it might switch around. They tend to use that 2 running back system, and they tend to switch back and forth. I had to put up with him the first year I got Arian Foster, and pretty much every year I've gotten stuck with him, so I would bench him.
And it's early to drop him, but if there is someone that's going off on the waiver wire, depending on if you're not in a deep league, you might want to think about dropping him because Ben Tate's in his contract year, which I think is why he's producing the numbers he's producing. And the Texans offense just isn't looking that great. The Texans as a whole aren't looking that wonderful.
Right.
I mean, they struggled against the Chargers, they struggled against the Titans. So I'm not sure that they're going to be the team that everyone is thinking they're going to be and make the playoffs. I don't know if that's going to happen.
So you're saying I should drop him? I might just have to listen to you.
Depends who's on the waiver wire.
That's right. Okay, next we are going to get into our Bears. I think they did pretty damn good this week, don't you? I think we even had our doubts about them going into this game.
It was a very stressful game to watch, but they are the comeback kids. It seems like fourth quarter magic is happening for us. So we're not terrible throughout the game, but the fourth quarter is where all the magic seems to happen.
And that's why we have to bring up Jay Cutler. All of a sudden, Jay Cutler, who's always been suspect every year, nobody wants him on their fantasy team unless they're like some diehard Bear fan and they want to be a homer. He actually has value. He actually has 5 touchdowns now, for crying out loud, at this point. I mean, that's crazy for him, stat-wise.
It is, and the only concern with him is the interceptions. If he can just find a way to not turn the ball over as much, because I think the touchdowns are going to keep happening. It's just you don't want to lose points for those turnovers. So I think that's my only concern. But, he's a good pickup if you can get him now, possibly, and stash him even for a couple weeks. But they're playing Pittsburgh, so what do you think is going to happen with Pittsburgh?
I think Martellus Bennett is going to go off again. He already has 3 touchdowns. That is the total amount of touchdowns that tight ends had all last year on our team. All last year, and he's already tied it in 2 games. So Jay's obviously going to him. He got the winning touchdown catch. I think that Pittsburgh, their defense is still hanging in there. We talked about this before the show. The defense is still hanging in there. Their offense is horrible. They have no running game. We just need to make our defense work. I think you have a few words to say about our defense.
Yeah, they have no pass rush right now, so that's definitely a problem because playing cover 2 is very difficult if you're not getting to the quarterback. Pittsburgh's offensive line isn't that good, so hopefully we'll be getting a few sacks in that game. But, I don't know. You can't sit your skill players like Brandon Marshall, Matt Forte. You got to start those in your fantasy lineup because they're going to get you some points. But this is not a give-me game for the Bears.
Definitely not.
Pittsburgh is desperate for a win. They're playing at home. The Bears have not played on the road yet. And I think they're going to start off fast. They're going to try to be creative, try to get points on the board right away. And it's just going to be a hostile environment for the Bears to play in. So the Bears have played well, but I don't think it's just a game that we can say, oh, we're going to walk in there and win. I absolutely don't think that's the case. I think it's going to be a pretty intense showdown.
Right, but that's where you're going to get your B. Marsh points. That's where you're going to get your Cutler points going down the stretch and your Bennett points. So you definitely want to play some Bear players. Even though it is Pittsburgh at home, you're going to have to put some of them in there.
Absolutely, and I think some of Pittsburgh's receivers are definitely going to be worth playing. You know, you have Antonio Brown, maybe Emmanuel Sanders, because their run game they're having problem with their, you know, running game. So I think that some of their receivers are going to find ways to get open and get you some fantasy points as well.
A problem with the running game, my God, when you need to bring Dwyer back and he still has a weight problem, you're in some deep trouble. And Isaac Redmond couldn't run through the two of us if we were playing, you know, Red Rover. I don't think he could break past us.
And they started Felix Jones, so it's, you know, that their running backs are just up in the air. You don't know who's going to start. So
it's all trouble there. So when we come back, are you ready to give us your real men?
Yes, I have 3 real men for you guys this week.
All right, let's get on to the week 3 real men. Stay tuned.